Welcome to Math Time with Mrs. Sturzer.
In this episode, we will be adding fractions with unlike denominators.
So we do know that when we are adding fractions with like denominators, then all we have to do is keep the denominator the same and add the top. So 1 plus 2 is 3. 3/3 is actually equal to 1 whole. Well, what happens when we don't have the same denominator? Well, let's take a look at that. So if we have 2/3 plus 1/4, these have different denominators. Remember, denominators are the total amount, the total pieces. So if I have 2/3 and 1/4, it is impossible to add these together because we can't combine the pieces when they're not the same size. So what we have to do is we have to make it so that these pieces are the same size so that we can add them together. And this comes in really handy when you are maybe using a recipe, or you are splitting a bill when eating at a restaurant, or when you are analyzing performance of a basketball team, or calculating discounted prices. We need to find the least common denominator, which I went over in my least common denominator video. So let's do that. Remember, finding the least common denominator or least common multiples is just listing out the multiples or skip counting. So we have 3, 6, 9, 12. And 4, 8, 12. And I stopped at 12 on the 3 because I knew that 12 was a multiple of 3 and 4, because 3 times 4 is 12. So I am going to use 12 as my new denominator. And I'm going to rewrite this here. So I know that I'm going to use 12 as my common denominator because now I can fit 2/3 and 1/4 into the fraction of 12, and they can share those parts. But how am I going to get there? And that is just by using equivalent fractions. So I'm going to multiply, I'm going to figure out 3 times what gets me to 12. Well, 3 times 4 gets me to 12. And since I did that to the bottom, I have to do that to the top because it has to be equivalent. It has to be equal. So that's going to be 8. The 1, 4, or I'm going to multiply 4 times what to get 12? Well, I'm going to multiply 4 times 3 to get 12. So what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 1 times 3 is 3. Now I can add these together. 8 plus 3 is 11. And then I keep the denominator the same because that's the total parts. So 2/3 plus 1/4 equals 11/12. Let's try another one. Let's say that we have 3/5 and 2/9. Now, when we look at our denominators 5 and 9, and I could go through the trouble of listing them all out, but I know my divisibility rules, and 5 and 9 would only have a common multiple by timesing themselves by each other. So I can do this the easy way, and I can just do 5 times 9 and 9 times 5. And that's going to be 45 on the bottom. And so now I'm going to change my numerators. So 3 times 9 is 27. And 2 times 5 is 10. And I add those together and I get 37 45ths. Now let's do one that might be a little trickier where you have to actually go through the motions of finding the least common multiple. If we find the least common multiple, then the less likely you will have to simplify the fraction. So let's look at a different fraction here. Let's do 1/2 plus 4/6. Go through the motions of listing out my common denominators here. Let's see, 2, 4, 6. And I look and I see, oh, look, 6 is a common denominator, but this one is a 6. So guess what happens when we have one denominator that we can use? We don't have to change it at all. So we're just going to transfer this down here and keep this 4/6. And then we're going to change this one to 6. We do that by multiplying 2 times 3. What we do at the bottom, we have to do to the top. So that's going to be 3. So now we can add 3 plus 4 is 7/6. Well, that is an improper fraction. So I need to change it into a mixed number. And I do that by dividing the top by the bottom. So 6 can go into 7 one time. I subtract 6. I have 1 remaining, which becomes my numerator. So 7/6 is the same as 1 and 1/6. Let's do one more. Let's do 1/6 plus 2/9. Now I could just do 6 times 9 and 9 times 6, but that gives me a really big number. So I'm going to see if I can find a multiple that they share. So I'm going to do 6, 12, 18, and knowing my multiples, watch, 9, 18, I know that 18 is going to be the one that they share. So I'm going to change my fractions here. And again, what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I'll get my multiplication. 6 times 3 is 18. So 1 times 3 is 3. And then 9 times 2 is 18. And 2 times 2 is 4. Add these together and I get 7/18. And that is how we add fractions with unlike denominators.
Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep learning and growing. Mrs. Sturzer out.